They say your first game should be something simple, like Pong. Well, this isn't my first game, so let's add as many features as I can.
Oink. 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 Oink.
I'm using my own engine, built on the monogame framework, and I will give myself 1 week to complete this project. I started with an empty game template, and the first thing I added was a paddle. A simple, immovable white rectangle. With some acceleration, friction, and velocity, I got the paddle to move up and down. But right now, there's nothing preventing it from leaving the game area. So I added some bounds to define the size and location of the game area, and to prevent the paddle from escaping. Pong with no opponent would be too easy, so I added another paddle on the other side of the field. I then got tired by the default cornflower blue, so I changed to the classic black and white. And I gave myself the options to go into full screen. 2 paddles facing off on the opposite sides of a playing field is fun for like 3 seconds. We need something to interact with. We need a ball. The ball doesn't move yet, but there it is, in the middle of the field, taunting our players. And now the ball moves, but it doesn't bounce yet, and it goes straight through the paddle and then stops. I added some simple lines of code that checks which side of the playing field the ball is hitting, and flips the corresponding X and Y velocity to create a perfect mirror bounce. Problem is, the ball is still going straight through the paddle. I could add the same mirror bounce to the paddle, but that wouldn't do much. What I really want is for the ball to change direction based on where on the paddle it's hitting. I solved this by mapping the hit position to the height of the paddle, where 0 is the center, -1 is the top, and +1 is on the bottom. And using this scale, I can map it to an outgoing angle of between -45 degrees and +45 degrees. This means a hit close to the middle will bounce the ball straight up to the field again, while a hit close to the edge will hit the ball up to 45 degrees up or down. This will allow skilled players to control where they want the ball to go. And now we have a super simple version of Pong done, except for the fact that it doesn't really matter if you hit the ball or not. There's no way to lose, and no way to win. So I added a health system, and displayed the player's health as hearts on top of the screen. And now when you miss the ball, you take 1 point of damage. The ball then resets to the middle of the field. Unfortunately, this is unfair to player 2, as they could get stuck in an infinite losing state. To combat this, instead of just spawning the ball in the middle and hurling it towards player 2, I give it to a player to hold. This allows them to serve the ball whenever and wherever they want. And if a player misses the ball, they get to pick it up and serve it back at the other player. This feels more fair. I then added a win state when one of the players has lost all their hearts, and that is it. The most basic, fully playable version of Pong. Now it's time to add more features. Starting with an AI. I can't always rely on other people to want to play this game with me. And playing both sides is not that fun. So I decided to add an AI to control the other paddle. The first version of the AI was very naive. It just moved to match the Y position of the ball. This made the paddle move in a very robotic way, and it was impossible to beat. I then made the AI predict where the ball would go. This got rid of the robotic movement, but the AI was still impossible to beat. So I introduced a delayed reaction time and some inaccuracies to the predictions. This made it finally possible to beat the AI, and these numbers would later be used to tweak the AI difficulty. While working with the AI, I made a debugging tool that allowed me to see the exact path of the ball, and an indicator for where the AI thought the ball would end up. Up until now, the game has been very quiet, so I sat myself in front of the microphone and recorded some silly sound effects. And I added them, together with free music, to the game.
Oink. Oink. Oink.
I added a main menu and a credit screen, and now the game is starting to look like a real game. But we need more features. And what better features to add than screen shake? Now the paddle shakes when they hit the ball, and the entire screen shakes when someone takes damage. And if we have screen shake, we gotta have particles. My engine does not currently have a particle system, so I had to hack something together for this game. My first attempt was a bit extreme, but with some tweaking of the numbers, I think I got it right. I also added shakes to the hearts when you're low on health. And I added local multiplayer back into the game. It had disappeared when I added the main menu. I added a round system when playing against the AI. Each round, the player would get an increasingly larger paddle, while the AI would get more health. Forcing a specific upgrade on the player didn't feel right, so I made it so they can choose what upgrade they want between each round. I added a regeneration upgrade that had a chance to heal the player every time they hit the ball. The way I handled randomness with this ability was a bit special, and I might make a separate video on randomness in video games if you want me to. But the short version is that we keep track on the desired outcome, 10%, and the actual outcome. And we use this to tweak the numbers behind the scenes to quicker converge on the target outcome. Let me know if you want me to do a deeper dive into this. Passive upgrades are fine, but it would be more fun if you could have active upgrades. Abilities the player could activate at will. The first set of abilities I added was the ability to speed up and slow down the ball. These abilities could be bound to one of two slots, but I didn't like how clunky the slot selection system was. So I decided to rework the upgrades a bit. So now you can only have one upgrade of each type. Offensive, defensive, paddle, and ball. On top of this, there was still permanent upgrades, like extra health, and these could stack just like before. I added a big ball and a small ball upgrade. The big ball does double damage, and the small ball is faster. And while working on the balls, I found it only natural to add the ability to split the balls in two. More balls, more fun. This ability would turn out to be a bit overpowered. I was on a roll with the abilities. I added a prediction ability that took the debugging tool I made before and turned it into a gameplay feature. I added a barrier as the ultimate protection ability when you get overwhelmed. And finally, an attract ability that turns your paddle into a magnet and attracts the balls to you, making them easier to hit. I also added some permanent upgrades, like cooldown reductions and a chance to deal extra damage. These damage upgrades got their own indicator in the UI, and I added damage numbers to show how much damage is being dealt. And with some final number tweaks and balancing, I turned the AI mode into a challenge, where you have to survive 20 rounds. Each round, the AI gets smarter, using those prediction numbers I exposed before, along with more and more upgrades. And that's it. The week is over and the game is done. I turned Pong into some kind of roguelike. It's available on my itch.io page if you want to try it out. Link in the description. This video is part of a series where I try to figure out what kind of videos I want to make. So if you like this video and want to see more like it, then please let me know. Thank you for watching. See you next time.